Welcome to Franchise Empires.
What's like a typical location do from a staffing perspective? Do I need like 14 flexologists, part-time, full-time between one unit, or, have you found like kind of a sweet spot there?
Well, that is in an ideal world, it's always going to be driven off of my membership base, right? So I'm going to staff accordingly based on the members. Now, I want to have 80% of my business, and I think some studios even outperform that number. So good for them. But 80% of my business being my members, right? And then I've got to have additional capacity for new clients to come in. And then we have some folks that, are averse to memberships, right? So they'll just come in and maybe they'll buy a package or they'll just continue to pay a la carte for a single session, right? But to answer your question, it's going to be based on how big my members are. For me, I am, I've got some studios that are less than a year old and others that are 5 years old, right? So varying levels of membership. So it's going to be at least 7 flexologists, 6 to 7 flexologists, but then it can be up to 10 to 12, right? And that's going to, again, be based on the member base. Not all, depends on the market too. I mean, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, strong market. I've also got studios in Columbia as well. There are studios I know in Manhattan, right, that are crushing it, right? And they've got huge member bases, right? So they probably have a lot more folks on their staff than I do.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, but even that 6 to 7 range for a market like Charlotte, I mean, that's relatively to other concepts, it's actually pretty manageable. Like fast food joints are running 20 plus locations or 20 plus, total head count just to get a location through 7 days a week. So that's interesting. And on the the membership side, is there, we've spoken to some boutique fitness, like F45s of the world, where they seem to have within their model, like a target membership volume where they know generally, and like you just mentioned, New York, right? This is going to vary based on market. But have you seen something where you're like, all right, once we get to this, we're generally starting to break even and then everything else becomes kind of profitable?
Yeah. So I want to be 120 plus members, right? Okay. Where I'm breaking even, right? At least on my monthly P&L. So we know that. And, and then after that, it's continuing to, manage expenses, grow the revenue, continue to grow the membership base to, to get that, studio performing, where we want it to go. But that's kind of that's the number that I target, right? So I've got a studio right now that it's under construction, and that's where I will target. Okay, that's where we want to be when we open, right? And we'll have, soft opening and grand opening events that will lift that number. We can do a lot of work ahead of time to build that membership base so that, when I open or soon thereafter, right, I am, essentially, running a profitable business.
So from launch day, you're saying?
Can be. Yeah. I mean, I have been in that case with a couple of my studios where we're in the black right out of the gates, and others we haven't done a good job. Then we got some catch up to do.
Wow. That's, that's like reminds me of Orange Theory, where they were doing that all the time. They had launched and they were already well into the black. So,
my first studio we opened with over 250 members right out of the gates.
When was that? When was that first studio?
That was pre-COVID, so that was May of 2019. Now, part of that was it was new construction, so my pre-sale time was longer than I would have liked, just because I started selling memberships in January of that year. It didn't open until essentially Memorial Day. So I had a long time to build it, right? But we worked our tail off. And so by the time we went through that soft opening weekend, we were north of 250. And it was gangbusters. It was great.
That's incredible.